All right, I appreciate, are we ready? Okay, this is a meeting of the Senate Rules Committee. We are following up on a policy that was approved and adopted by joint rules this morning, and we thought it would be appropriate for us as the Senate Rules Committee to discuss the face mask policy briefly here within the chamber, because that is our purview. So Senate Secretary, you want to walk us through?
So as you recall, as sort of a background, the Joint Rules Committee passed a policy last year, we're going into this year, which required masks in the common areas. And then that was adopted by the House Rules for the House and their committees. And then the Senate Rules Committee, what you did was introduce resolutions the first day. So those are done by resolutions, both the masking policy, which requires masks on the floor, and masks in the committee room. You also passed on the first day the vaccination and testing. And so because these recommendations come down, which would say that masks are suggested, but not mandated within the building as far as the joint rules is concerned, it took effect immediately, which means as of this morning, masks in the building are suggested but not mandatory. It's similarly, the Sergeant at Arms has sent out to everyone via email. It's in the building. You will receive this. I know you were on the floor about 10 o'clock. They sent out a copy of this policy along with an explanation, and it will also be posted on the website. So even with joint rules adopting this policy, you are still under your Senate resolution, which says you must have masks to be on the floor and you must have masks to be in committee rooms. I will just briefly, there are exceptions to the discretionary use of masks. The two major exceptions are because there was some expressed concern by some staff members that generally their office, I'll call it sort of a safe space. If you go and talk to somebody from Ledge Council or someone that's a staff, and if they're in there, you're required to wear a mask. So even if you sort of change the policy for the Senate, you'll be wanting to carry a mask if you want to be able to work the different parts. You can, if the person in that staff member tells you that they don't mind, you don't have to wear one. They can give you permission to come in without a mask. So what you would need to do, if you wanted to vary the Senate policy, we would draft up on behalf of the Senate Rules Committee a resolution to adopt tomorrow, if you see fit, whatever policy you decide. The second exception is if Washington is at a red zone, a high, then the masks are required in committees. So if you did exactly what's here, you have three things. You'd be on the floor with no mask if you cared. You could still wear them. You could be potentially in your committees without masks unless Washington County's in a high zone, then you would be required to wear masks. And if you visited staff and you wanted to go and talk to, say, Ledge Council, you would be required to wear a mask unless they told you didn't have to. I will tell you, whatever you do for the chamber is what we're doing in our office. So it's going to be consistent, so you don't have to worry, but it would be for other offices in the building.
Any questions? Senator Brock.
Just the one question I had, and I didn't think of it this morning,
Yep.
On the issue of committee rooms. I would have preferred to see committee rooms when committees are in session. You know, if two people are sitting in a committee room and want to be unmasked, and the rest of the building is, I don't see an issue with that.
Right.
And one of the things would be whether or not we want to put that in our rules, committees when committees are in session.
I have no objections to
No,
that.
that's fine with me.
None, that's current practice pretty much anyway.
Yeah. Any other considerations? So, John, do you feel like we need to?
I think, again, it would be nice that you would instruct me, whether
Yes.
I vote or not, or without objection,
Yeah.
to do a resolution for tomorrow that'll modify our temporary rule to comply with this. I will tell you that tomorrow we'll pass it out. It'll
Okay.
take a rule suspension to take it up.
Okay.
Generally, rule changes are supposed to be on the calendar. And so we go through the formalities, which would take 3/4. I think, and if you don't get it, you just take it up the second day.
Okay.
But I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a
Thanks
surprise.
for that clarification.
I just want to make sure we use the language that's consistent with this, which is strongly encouraged and not suggested. Masking.
I'd say very strongly encouraged if you want to.
Well, coming from another red zone, yes.
Any other discussion? The senator from Grand Isle has moved. All those in favor, signify.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, if you would draw those up, Mr. Secretary, we can possibly take action on that on the floor tomorrow, depending on whether we get the rule suspension. My understanding is I've got two.
There are two bills in committee that were referred today. Would you like to discuss those, Senator?
Sure, let's do it.
So generally, it's background, for part of crossover, when a bill fails to make crossover either from the Senate or from the House, it is referred to your Senate Rules Committee, and then you have to take an affirmative action
Right.
to have it come back onto the floor. So there were two bills that went to Rules Committee today. One of them is a Colchester Fire Department, approval of a dissolution of the Colchester Fire Department. And the second one is a bill by the Committee on Ways and Means, which does some technical and administrative changes to Vermont's tax laws. Those will stay there unless, for some reason, if somebody makes a motion to have them referred. What would happen is if you move them on tomorrow, they'd be referred to their appropriate committees on the floor.
Right.
Are there any objections?
No. I would move that we allow both those House bills to go out of Senate rules and onto the floor and sent to the appropriate committees.
Appreciate the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. And
Senator Pierce.
Senator Pearson, did you have something before the Rules Committee?
Yes. Excuse me. I just wanted to talk to you about the times when we're able to participate remotely.
Okay.
I've had kids who, well, first of all, between my two kids, not a week that goes by where there's not a close contact.
Yes.
So, we have loads of tests. Thank you for making those available here. That's been a real help. My family, we often start the day with a test, all four of us. But the question arises, if one of them gets COVID, I'm not allowed to vote according to, as I understand the current rule. I'm not allowed to vote remotely. I'm not going to call, the options for us would be a grandmother. So I will skip and look after a kid with COVID. I'm not going to have that fall to a grandmother. But sort of related is this concern of the lag, right? There's a potential exposure, then someone's got a runny nose, but you wouldn't be testing positive. And in there is, I would argue, it's really prudent, given it is a headache, but it's not unworkable to have a remote option. And so I don't know that you've talked about that expressly, but I just, and I'll live with whatever, but I just wanted to bring that forward to you all as you're thinking about it. I can't, maybe I am more unique because, Senator Chittenden also has young kids.
Senator Hardy, there are a couple.
Yeah, so that's an issue, but it's basically how clear is the line, and what about these times when you have every reason to think you're exposed.
Right.
You come down here now, mask free to some of it, potentially, and is that really sensible? So
Appreciate that. And I can feel your pain. My children were only in school for 7 days in the entire month of January because of exposure.
Right.
So,
My gosh.
Just some background. So everyone kind of, because I have spoken with Senator Pearson on a number of occasions, the exemptions right now are refusal to wear a mask, which is no longer, refusal to vaccinate, or sort of third category, which has different little classes, but you've tested positive, you've had a diagnosis, or you've been told to quarantine under some protocol. And that's about as, not overly vague, but the most vague of the three, because all you really need is sort of a doctor or somebody to say that you should be quarantined. Those can be changed. The hard part is figuring the right way to thread the needle. I don't know if I've talked to Senator Pearson about those, sort of the alternative option, which becomes much more idiosyncratic, which you can suspend the rules. And so if there's enough time made, one of the ways of making individual cases would be that it would have to be done on the floor, but that someone's actually, the rules are suspended so they can participate via remote. And you can do that for almost any reason. We've done that a couple times with people who didn't have video. As you know, from 2 years ago, it was quite a debate as to you have to be visual,
Right.
you have to be by sound to participate and to vote. There have been a couple times where we suspended that rule to allow people to do their presentation without a video or vote without a video. And it depends. It's hard to know what is the right way to recommend to you, but if it's something that doesn't happen too often, that may be the easiest way, rather than making it so broad that it begins to swallow up almost everything. But on the other hand, if you want me to try to draft up some things, I can. It's more difficult to know how to include it without catching a lot of.
Sure. Senator Pearson.
Well, I guess I really don't care. It's just that I have been
Yes.
sitting at home wondering about this a little bit. So I'm open to what you want to decide. One alternative, it would be because I think there's a risk. If somebody in a senator's household
Yes.
is testing positive,
Right.
you know, I look around the room, this is not a young body. And I think that demands some caution. And I think maybe that's a way, you know, so if you're positive or someone in your household, you know, you have reason to believe you're exposed, such as someone in your household, something like that.
Right.
Anyway.
I'm just going to, for the sake of time, I would say if Senator Pearson, you would work with the Senate Secretary for some draft language that we can look at. I think that's going to be the best path forward,
Yes.
given the time, and I'd like folks to be able to get to committee.
Yeah.
Is that
That would be
acceptable?
That's acceptable. Better
And
than-
whatever language you come up with, leave in the alternative of suspending the rules, perhaps.
Well, that's by virtue.
I don't want the suspending.
But as an alternative, just